As a trader, we're looking for that perfect setup, and when we see it, we get in big and we get in with our full size to take advantage of that. But what happens when it doesn't work out, when it fails? Our guest is here to talk to us about what we can do to kind of avoid that or minimize those losses. Our guest is Corey Rosenbloom. Corey, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, so what am I supposed to do when I see this perfect trade set up and it just doesn't work out?
That happens from time to time. New traders, they go to conferences, they read books, and they learn that a pattern is going to work. And they may not be told the risk or that it's just a probabilistic edge of a greater opportunity of one thing happening than not. However, a trade setup that's common, like a flag or an entry into a head and shoulders breakdown, or really any kind of pattern we learn that that's usually going to work, but what happens if it does not? That's the key. So number one, if a pattern sets up and fails, a trader needs to limit the loss. That's of utmost importance, because a pattern is simply a probabilistic event like throwing the dice or really just a roulette wheel roll or any kind of a card flip of the cards. So we don't know the outcome. And so what happens if you fight that, the move is breaking down and it could lead to a bigger move against you, it's pattern failure and a larger stop than you'd taken it initially.
So a lot of traders, that happens to them, it fails initially, maybe they get stopped out, and of course, eventually it does work out, and it goes on to make more money. That's a little bit frustrating, so am I just to kind of deal with that, realize that it doesn't happen all the time for me, and then wait for the next trade?
Right, that happens too. The number one goal of a trader should be to minimize risk and to minimize losses as much as possible. And that means not being biased and not believing the charts will be 100% accurate or the patterns will work 100% of the time. And what happens is as more people see the pattern and they act upon it, they are positioned. What happens from a secondary standpoint is that those traders will place stop losses. They may enter at different levels as the pattern forms, but a lot of them will place stops at the same level. So what happens is what we consider a positive feedback loop. When the market breaks, for example, a confluence support level in an upward moving market, traders have stops under it. So what happens? Initially, the buyers are forced to take their losses, and that creates further downside action. These other traders who are short sellers or who are not positioned at all may take that as a breakdown to get short, and that will create further downside action. So we have the buyers selling for liquidation purposes, for stop lossing, unwillingly, and we have the new short sellers entering new short positions willingly. And this can create a feedback loop that can perpetuate. And what happens if a trader fights that, if it develops, is a larger than normal loss.
Is there still time, maybe if I don't make that initial and I get stopped out, to get back in and actually take advantage of that pattern if it actually ends up having to work out?
In terms of the pattern working out, there's two things to look at. And the first is a relatively easier play, is to anticipate the failure. A lot of times new traders have these patterns fail, they lose money, and they get caught up in that feedback loop. So they wind up with those larger losses. Over time, they get more experience. And so they realize if a pattern fails, they will go ahead and exit immediately. As they progress in their career, they may actually realize that a pattern failure leads to a bigger move the other way. So some of the aggressive, experienced traders will actually take the opposite side of the trade and try to profit from the feedback loop. That is the first scenario and the easiest. What is the most unfortunate or frustrating scenario is when that pattern works, or the pattern fails, and then it goes just a little bit down beneath the confluence support, the level that every trader is watching. It takes the stop losses of those who are holding too close and then reverses. That's an unfortunate pattern, and that's one where just risk management and just a realization of this happens, it's not going to work all the time, and it's hard to do, but almost not so much have a positive attitude, but realize it's just a risk that I took, and I lost money in this trade, and there will be a next trade to come.
Corey, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Tim.